Let's talk about how there's a bigger opportunity for independent music artists to put their music on TV, films, and commercials. And I'm bringing on a special guest to fill us in on that. Let's talk about it right after this intro. Join me in my mission to help put at least 50,000 music artists on the right track to be independently successful with their music, to turn the talent that they have with their voice into gold. My name is Billy Nellis, and welcome to the Golden Voice Podcast. Boom. Okay, so we're going to dive into it. I'm super excited about this episode because I'm going to be bringing one of my friends that has over 2,500 placements on TV and films. And it's someone that I actually had on the Any Artist Summit recently. And he's just an expert on the subject. And we're going to cover everything that you're going to need to know in order for you to put your music as an independent artist on TV, films, and commercials. So without further ado, I'm not going to spend a lot of time to introduce him, but let me bring onto the stage. And by the way, I'm going to have to put my golden headphones on because we're going to get some golden gems over here. So I got my guy, Michael Elsner, on the line. Michael, how you doing, brother? Great to have you again, man.
Billy, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, man. So just for the people that are going to be tuning into this, I just want you to go over an overview of your story real quickly so that they can get to know you a little bit. And then we'll dive into the steps that you use to get your music on TV, films, and commercial. Let's get into it.
Sure. Well, I grew up playing guitar in rock bands in a small town upstate New York. And I moved to Nashville in 1998 when I was 23. And I was, at that point, the bands that I'd been in kind of had run their course. So I was there to do a lot of things. I wanted to produce and write songs. But of course, I was also real focused on touring and obviously getting a record deal and whatnot. So I was very fortunate in that I connected with a very well-known and successful engineer right when I got to town, just by chance. And he took me under his wing, and I started really getting, into the studio scene at that time. But I was always getting turned down with my songs when I was taking my songs to publishers. So I basically got turned down for about 4.5 years. And at that time, I had a home studio. I built my home studio starting around 2001. Pro Tools was still fairly new to the market. And, but I was, producing songs at my house. And then, when I needed drums or anything like that, I had access to, really nice studios. So my song production at that time was really at a professional level, but I still was getting no's from publishers. So in the summer of 2003, I decided, well, I'm going to, at least if I keep getting turned down here, let me at least go out to where there's an ocean and the weather's nice, So I went out to Los Angeles, and very quickly I landed a gig playing guitar on a daytime soap opera. That was my very first time doing anything TV related. And I started watching how the composer was, obviously writing to film. And then even my role as a guitar player, how when I was laying down parts, I was really watching the scene unfold. And that was a whole different experience than what I was used to. Then shortly after that, I got called to play on a show called Cold Case, actually on the TV show. So I was on set and it was on camera. And at that time, I met the music supervisor for that show. At that point, I knew what they were because of my experience just working on this other show that I was doing. And I asked her if I could give her a CD of some of my songs. So the next day, I gave her a CD, and they were the songs that I'd been turned down, the previous years in Nashville. But about 2 or 3 weeks later, I got a featured placement on that show. And within the next year and a half, I had landed, I believe it was 75 placements, because I believe it was.
Wow, this is huge.
Yeah, I moved there in summer of 2003. So I really got into licensing in 2004. And by Thanksgiving of 2005, I had landed my 75th placement. So, at that time, it was a different world when it came to licensing. But I dove right into it because as opposed to the traditional music path where I was, always getting no's. I was just getting yeses and yeses and yeses. And so, of course, it's always nice to hear yes. So
Definitely.
I ventured down that road, and then I just started over the next number of years piecing together this formula that I created that really allowed me to serve. I call them the end users because I don't only talk about music supervisors. Part of the licensing sphere, the other individuals that are very big components that we have to consider in this space would be the music editor and the re-recording mixer and the roles that they play in a TV show or a film or whatnot. So I look at all of them as the end users, and my goal is to serve them better than the next person.
Right.
And so during that time, I was able to spend a lot of time with supervisors and editors. And I mean, literally, that's all I was doing all day long was I was in a studio somewhere, and I was learning how they worked. And it was even file delivery back then was completely different. So it was a little bit more chaotic. Metadata really didn't exist like it does now. So it was more of a chaotic process. And as I analyzed that process, I thought, how can I actually bring some organization to this chaos so that people would want to work with me, on a consistent basis. And that's really how my 4-step process came about.
Right. Nice. This is while you're sharing your story, it just proves to me that, sometimes you may be getting a lot of no's, but that's for a reason, right? For me, no means next opportunity. And you just kind of, kept moving forward, kept learning and building relationships. And then that one relationship really turned everything around for you. And then whatever else you were getting no's on ended up being a whole bunch of yeses as you were moving forward. And that's how it got super crazy. So that's super inspiring right there. So as you move forward, you said that you craft a system, a process, a framework on how to actually get music placed on TV, films, and commercials and everything. So how does that look like for somebody that wants right now that wants in to the licensing world, like the music licensing world as it's called, which means getting music on TV, films, and commercial? How does it work for you on your side?
Well, before we get through, because I can get through that process real quick, I kind of want to talk about one of the mistakes that people make, and then you'll see how this actually falls into that 4-step process.
Definitely, yeah.
The biggest mistake that I see musicians make, and this is not now, I mean, this has literally been for the last 15, 16 years, is that musicians who want to license their songs, they approach it the same way they approach what I call the traditional music industry, which is obviously the process that we're all familiar with, where we finish our song or finish our record and we just send it out to all these outlets, whether it's like a radio station or a magazine to get a review in the magazine, or agents or publishers or record labels. We just send it out and we expect them to figure out what to do with it and let them determine, whether or not they like it or not. Now, that's what a lot of musicians do when it comes to licensing. They will find a list of music supervisors online, and they'll just blast them with their email. And then they wonder why they never hear back, or they find some libraries. Again, they just find some list online, and then they just blast them their stuff and they never hear back. And so they wonder, like, oh, I've been trying to send out my stuff, but no one ever gets back to me.
Right.
So let me give you a very quick analogy of this, and then we'll dive into those 4 steps. Okay. Let's say you want to go to a Super Bowl party, Super Bowl Sunday, you just moved into town, you don't know anyone. Okay. So this is the way that you have really 2 options. And the first option is really the way that a lot of musicians approach licensing. First option would be you drive down the street, you find a house that has a bunch of cars in front of it, you go up to the door and you knock. And when the homeowner opens up the door, you say something like, hey, I see you're having a party. I'd like to come in and join you. Right. And what you're really telling them is, hi, I don't care about you. I don't care about any of your friends. I just want to come in. I want to eat your food and I want to use your bathroom. Right. And we can all agree that the chances of someone opening the door and letting some stranger in to that party are very small. Of course, there's always going to be someone. There's always going to be someone, but the chances are very small. Okay. That's the reason why when you just blast your music out, you don't hear back. You're doing the same thing. You're not bringing any value to the table. You're showing up saying, hey, give me some stuff. Hey, I know you got some stuff. Give it to me. That's really what you're saying.
Mhm.
Now, the second option is to drive by a house, see all the cars in front, maybe roll down the window and you hear them in the back and you're like, oh yeah, they definitely got a party going on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down to the market down the street. I'm going to go get a platter of fruit and vegetables, and I'm going to get some wings, and I'm going to grab a Coke and maybe a Dr. Pepper. So you got like the 2-liter Coke under one arm, the Dr. Pepper on another. You got your hands full of the wings and the fruit and vegetable. And you go up and you knock on the door. You can't even knock. You kind of got to kick it, or, or hit the doorbell with your elbow.
Yeah.
And the homeowner comes and you say, hey, I just moved into the neighborhood, and I was heading down to the market. I saw you guys were having a party. And when I was there, I thought that maybe you guys could use some, wings and some fruits and vegetables. I also got some Coke and a Dr. Pepper for you if you guys would like. Now, what happened here is we showed up to the party with the goods. Now, we can probably all agree that most people are going to say, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Well, come on in. So where did you say you live? Oh, I live a couple houses down. Oh, hey guys, check out the new guy. Look what the new guy brought, right? You're going to be welcomed into the party. Now, not everyone will, of course, some people won't, but what you've done is you've dramatically increased your opportunities to actually get in the door because you showed up with value. And that's what the 4-step process is. It's showing up with value so that the door doesn't slam in your face. And my 4-step process starts with step 1, which is to build your catalog. And what I mean by that is when you are writing music, in the traditional music industry path, a lot of times we put barriers around the process. The intro has to be 13 seconds long. Don't bore us, get to the chorus, all those types of, advice that we hear. Well, when it comes to building your catalog, the most important thing to do is write music that's authentic to you, that you genuinely love, and remove all those boundaries. Write without any boundaries. Just write authentically good music, because when that music is married to picture, that authenticity is what's going to come across. All right. Don't play those head games with yourself about all these songwriting rules. Follow your instincts. Write great music, but consistently write music. No one built their catalog on a 5-song catalog. No one built their career on a 5-song catalog, right? You got to keep writing. And so what happens is consistently build your catalog. The other thing that's great about licensing is that you can write across so many different genres. Now, doing the artist thing, generally speaking, you want to stay within one genre, right? But as a composer or songwriter for the TV world, you can write everything from EDM to orchestral to bluegrass to pop to rock, and you could write a different style of music every day, and there's always going to be an outlet for it. So Step 1, build your catalog, remove all those boundaries, and just write music that's authentically you. Now, once you've written your song, you are automatically into, or we'll say this, once you've recorded your song and you've mixed it, okay, once that mix is done, you are automatically in step 2 of the process, and that is what I call creating the valuable content. Now, this content actually serves the music editors and the re-recording mixers. Remember I said there are more people in our end user sphere than just music supervisors, right? We're not even
when you say, sorry to interrupt you, when you say end user, that means people that are working in the projects of those TV films or commercials, right? Like whoever's like putting together those, the pieces of content and everything, right? Just to make it clear.
Yes, the music supervisor, once the music supervisor secures the license, they hand it off to the music editor, who edits it into the scene. And then the music editor hands it to the re-recording mixer, who then takes all the elements, all the dialogue, all the music, all the sound design, and they mix it in surround, because most TV shows and films are mixed in surround, right?
Right.
Okay, so those are the people that we want to consider. So step 2 of the process, creating the valuable content, actually serves those people. So this is where we actually create alternate mixes. Okay, once we've created our full mix, then you can start creating, like, obviously you always want to create an instrumental mix if it's a vocal song. If it's an instrumental piece, then you want to strip off the melody and create a no melody mix. But then you can always dive deeper. Sometimes if you have a great drum and bass groove, you can just create a drum and bass mix. If you just listen to TV, you'll hear a lot of places where you just hear drums and bass, right? You can create a stripped down mix, maybe an acoustic mix. If you have EDM elements in your rock track, boost those up, pull down those rock elements. Now you have an EDM mix and vice versa. So there's a lot of things that we can do to create alternate mixes. This gives the music editor a lot of options. And what we've done here is we've dramatically increased our potential for placements, because each of those mixes becomes a potential placement. Okay.
Right.
So that's where we create our alternate mixes. We want to always deliver our stem mixes. And if you're shooting for commercials and advertisements, then you're going to want to create your 15, 30, and 60-second mixes, because commercials are 15, 30, and 60 seconds.
Right.
So once we've created all those mixes, now we are automatically in step 3 of the process, which is what I call mastering metadata. And metadata is all the information, all the keywords and the descriptive words and phrases that you add to the audio file that allows your music to be searched out of hundreds of thousands of songs. And this serves the music supervisor. For example, if the music supervisor's looking for a scene where people are on a beach and they're having a good time partying and whatnot, they're going to go into their catalog and they're going to type in words like beach, party, fun, summer, sand, surfing, etc. Right? Anything that's kind of beachy, that kind of describes what's going on. They might even use specific keywords related to the instruments. We can always agree that maybe ukulele music tends to be more beachy, right? More islandy. So maybe they're going to type in words like ukulele, right? Maybe they need a ukulele song with a female vocalist. So there's female vocal, summer, ukulele, right? They're going to type in these keywords.
Yeah.
And you got to look at it like a funnel. You want your song to be at the bottom of that funnel. And as that supervisor types in more words, we go from 500,000 songs down to 100,000, down to 50,000, down to 10,000, down to 1,000, down to 500, down to 50, and then ideally down to 10 or so. And once we get down to 10, that's where the supervisor is going to start spot checking those songs to see what's going to work for the scene and what's not. You want to be at the bottom of that funnel. And the only way to get to the bottom of that funnel is through metadata, and thorough metadata is key. So step 3 is adding metadata to all of the song files that you created in step 2. Okay.
Yeah. So that you increase your chances of those songs or that music to get found in those libraries that they're going to be in, right?
Of course.
Right.
And now
does that happen sometimes, sorry to interrupt, does that happen sometimes that companies or some music licensing companies do that step for you, or it's like a necessity that you actually get it done? And like you said with your analogy, which was amazing, by the way, where you bring the value, it's better that you actually bring the value so that it's already ready from the top when you bring it in?
There are some companies that will not do that anymore. It's so common now that people who know what they're doing and you got to keep in mind that your competitors are major publishers, major record labels, individuals who are highly schooled in the industry, right, who know how to do this. So as an independent musician, you got to compete. At the same point, no one cares about your success more than you do. And the last person that I would ever leave, metadata being so crucial, I would never leave that to someone. I would never risk that being put into the hands of some intern working at a music library who is just waiting to get off work to go out on a date with the person that they're dating. You know what I mean? Because
right,
if they don't do a thorough job, then all the work that you've done leading up to that is for nothing. So I would never personally leave that in the hands of a library. If you're working with a library or other individuals, agents or whatnot, if they want to add to it, that's great. If they want to do some adjustments, that's great. But I would rather always give them the full thorough metadata, again, because no one cares about my business more than I do. So right, I'm not going to personally let someone else take control over that aspect. And metadata is not difficult. At that point, you've gone through the whole process of writing and recording the song. It's so ingrained in you that no one should be able to describe it better than you at that time.
Yeah. Right.
And then, right, so once we've added the metadata, Then we go to step 4. And
For
step
yeah.
4 is what I call getting your music heard. Now, this is the process where we actually show up to the door and we start knocking. Now, what we've done here is in steps 1, step 2, and step 3, we've built. So we build, and then we knock. And this is the same as going down to the store and getting the fruit and the
fruit
vegetables
platter, the
and
vegetables,
the
the Dr.
Coke.
Pepper, and the
Yeah,
Coke, and yeah.
we got all the stuff they need. And all we're doing is we're knocking on the door and we're not asking for anything. We're simply saying, hey, listen, I know you're working on this. This is what I have for you. There you have it.
There you have it.
There you have it. It's kind of like you can find someone walking down the street on a Friday night on Broadway, and you can either go up and say, hey, listen, I'm hanging out down here with my buddies and we need some money to go buy some drinks. Can we have $100? That's very difficult.
Yeah.
Or you can go up to someone and say, hey, listen, have a great night, hand them $100 and say, be blessed, and go on your way. And that's really what we're doing here in step 4. When we build and we have all this stuff, all the goods, everything that our end users need, from the music supervisor to the re-recording mixer and the editor, we're providing everything that they need. It's a lot easier for people to accept that and invite you into the party when you show up with everything that they need. And the reason why a lot of people, a lot of independent musicians never get a response is because they follow that first example of they're just knocking, saying, hey, I want to come into your party. I want to eat your food. I want to use your bathroom. Just use my stuff. My music's amazing. Here, use it. But you're not actually providing anything that allows the music supervisor to actually search your songs if they were to ingest it into their catalog. You're not providing anything for the music supervisor then to hand off to the music editor or the re-recording mixer, right? You're not giving them any of the deliverables in the way that they need it. Yet the next person who is reaching out to them does. That's the reason why you never hear back. And that's why it's so important to follow this process. It's a very simple process. It's a process that will generate results for you. But only in step 4 did we actually start knocking. And the mistake that musicians make is that they want to start knocking now. The song is done. Let me start knocking now. But you haven't built anything. And that's the reason why you don't hear anything back, because you're working in a completely different industry. I want to end with this. When you're licensing your music, you are no longer working in the traditional music industry. So the traditional music industry rules do not apply. You're working in the TV industry, the film industry, the commercial industry, the video game industry, the film trailer industry. And those individuals who work in those industries, who are responsible for licensing music, need music delivered to them in an entirely different way than what you're used to when you just send out and blast out your songs to the traditional music industry folks. And that's the reason why I can't emphasize this enough. That's the reason why, if you've been trying to license your music and you've never heard anything back, that's the reason why.
That's amazing. Like, leading with value is where it's at. And this is something that I stand by. I love to lead with value because it just goes a long way, right? When you, like you said, you show up to the party and you have something to offer versus want, which is, something that a lot of music artists are doing. It just creates a huge difference, and you can differentiate yourself, first of all, and second of all, you can increase your chances of getting through that door. So that's what makes it all amazing. So really appreciate you sharing that with that analogy. It really makes so much sense. Now, where can people go a little bit deeper? I know that you have some stuff going on right now where artists can go go a little bit deeper when it comes to that whole process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to share a link that's going to allow everybody to go in with that. What is that? What is it that you got going on with that, so that somebody that hears this, they're like, okay, I need to go in and really master this process so I can get some activity and some things going with my music.
Yeah. So, I still work in the licensing space. So I'm very active in it. So I don't just sit around on the computer and teach all the time, but a couple of times throughout the year, I will open up my calendar and I will, host a master class. And that's what's going on right now. This week, as this podcast is coming out, I have a masterclass where we are diving deep into this. I mean, I haven't even touched like 2% of what we're talking about in the masterclass right today. But I dive deep into the 4 steps. Obviously, like I have 4 steps, but each of those steps, there are multiple steps within it. Of course, that, step 1, writing a song and recording a song, there are multiple steps that go into that, right? And it's the same thing as we get into building or creating the valuable content in step 2 and mastering metadata. I mean, metadata alone is a 3-hour conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So there are multiple steps that go into each of these that actually allow you to position yourself as a trusted source. And that's a key component here when it comes to licensing and music. Those professionals who work in the licensing space, they want to license music from trusted sources. So what I'm covering in the masterclass is really how to become a trusted source as an independent musician. Licensing music is amazing. And in fact, a statistic that just came out over the last couple of weeks is that there are now over 1,000 TV shows in production or active development. Yeah. And to give you a quick perspective of that, in 2009, we just crossed over 500.
Wow.
So since 2000, I'm sorry, not 2009, I mean 2019. 2019, we just crossed over 500. In 2018, there were 495. So in literally 3.5 years, there's been tremendous growth in just the scripted TV show market. And as an independent musician, the majority of music that you hear on TV is from independent musicians. They're not from famous musicians. Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're an indie musician, you're literally walking into a wealth of opportunities if you learn how to position yourself as a trusted source to those end users who license music, whose responsibility is to license music. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about in the masterclass.
Okay, great. So if you are tuning into this and you want to attend the masterclass, just go to the goldenvoicepodcast.com/Michael. All right. Very simple. Just go to the goldenvoicepodcast.com/Michael, and you'll be able to attend the masterclass so that you can go deeper into understanding and mastering the 4 steps that that Michael just shared over here, so that you can start to tap into an avenue that can not only over time increase your profits, but really give you some exposure in an industry where the traditional way of the music industry doesn't apply, like Michael was saying, and that's what makes it all amazing. So thank you so much, Michael, for sharing this, man. This is the analogy over here is what makes the huge difference. And when we can change our perspective on that, that's what is going to help us not only differentiating yourselves, but increasing our chances to get in the door for that. So thank you so much for sharing that, man. It really made a lot of sense.
Awesome, man. My pleasure.